Hey everyone, it's Erin with Hail Varsity, and I am joined by Greg Smith, also of Hail Varsity, our recruiting analyst, recruiting extraordinaire. We are unfortunately not at Memorial Stadium this week. There is not open practice availability on this beautiful Monday, but we are still doing the recruiting question of the week. Greg, how are you?
I am very well. I have my windows open. The door is open up there. No one can see that, but just picture sunlight streaming in. The one time that it would not have been freezing in that wind tunnel under Memorial Stadium is the day that we're not there.
Of course. Yeah. For anyone who maybe is new and is not sure what we're talking about, it has been particularly cold on just key days throughout spring, but it is now going to be 90 degrees and sunny in Nebraska. So it's basically summer. But we do have the spring game just days away. And a recruiting question, this is the question of the week, mostly because it's one that has been asked a number of times. Greg has been asked it by many different people. So there isn't one specific person, but we thought we'd address it in this video. What is the benefit to having recruits come to the spring game if they are unable to meet with coaches? Greg, maybe give everyone a little bit of a rundown why this is a unique situation where they can't have those visits, official or unofficial, and then why it matters for those recruits to still come.
Yeah, so what's been happening has been really interesting is that like over the last year during the pandemic, we've been in a dead period, right? Since I think last March. And so recruits were barred by the NCAA from visiting campuses and meeting with coaches, touring the facilities, all of that. That went on for so long that recruits took it in their own hands to start doing these like what we all kind of dubbed self-guided tours, where they just took trips to these campuses with their families and they just walked around the campus. They walked around the cities, or they came to Nebraska, they checked out maybe the Union, they maybe went to see a couple academic buildings, they walked around the rail yard and the Haymarket, and then they kind of went home. Now they got a little bit of guidance from the coaches on what they could maybe look at that would be of interest to them, but when they were on campus during these self-guided tours, they could not have any contact with the coaches because you're in a dead period, right? And so since the dead period is still going on, but during the spring games that are happening, restrictions are starting to be lifted when it comes to fans being allowed at these games. It puts us in this weird gray area where fans are able to go, but schools can't host recruits. Therefore, what kids and families and the schools have kind of decided is hey, if you just buy a ticket, so if Ernest Hausman, Nebraska's 2022 linebacker commit, just buys a ticket, he can go to the spring game because he's just quote unquote a fan, right? He still cannot have any contact, to be clear, with the coaching staff. He can't go tour, the weight room or anything like that, but he can go and check out the team just like anyone that's watching this can go and watch the game, right? And so that's how we kind of got here in this kind of weird roundabout way that there are visits happening for various spring games around the country.
And you have, for anyone who is a Hail Varsity subscriber, which if you are not, I recommend it. You can head to hailvarsity.com // I always get those switched around. Subscribe. But you have a premium post right now kind of giving a rundown of some of the names that people should know that might visit. So for those, because there are a number of 2022 and 2023 prospects that are on that list, why should they bother coming? If they have no contact with the coaches, why should they even? I think that was what a lot of people want to know is like, why even bother?
Yeah, I think that there's a few reasons. One of them, from the prospect's point of view, is that the same reason that fans want to go is the reason that these prospects want to go. They haven't seen the team operate in person in a really long time, and so when you're evaluating your schools and you're trying to figure out, even like getting to the point of evaluating to figure out where you want to take your official visits, being able to see how they operate in kind of an enhanced practice game simulation type of deal is a good data point to have for recruits. So it's just the practical nature of being able to see how the Huskers operate. So if you're a quarterback, and maybe if you take a look at that list, there's 3 different quarterbacks that'll be in Lincoln this weekend, then you want to see how the offense operates and how guys like Adrian Martinez and Logan Smothers and Hunter Harburg are coached up by Mario Verduzco and Scott Frost, and how they are utilized in the offense in person. Like, you don't want to hear about it from the coaches. You do, shouldn't say it that way. You do want to hear about it, but you also want to see it, right? The other thing is, and this is where something that Nebraska will be selling as well, is that, okay, at this point, there's 50% capacity, right? We know that a large number of Husker fans will be at this spring game. We don't know exactly how many, but it will be as many as any school in the country, right? I think we're pretty safe to say that no matter how many are end up being in there, there'll be a lot. And so to be able to see for yourself as a recruit, oh yeah, they've been telling me about these greatest fans in the nation and how they really show up for their team. But wait a second, they actually really do come out for this spring game in droves. Like, to be able to see how excited the fans are for that is another really cool thing too. And so there are a lot of different benefits of why it's important for prospects to come to this spring game this weekend. And it's going to be a really interesting thing to see take place.
Like I said, Greg is already starting to build that list of familiar faces that fans may see in the crowd, the recruits that will be coming. Like we said, they don't have to be there on an official visit. They can be a fan like anyone else. In fact, I won't give too much away, but when you do look at the list, there's obviously a lot of Midwest visitors, people who are able to get there very easily, but they're not the only ones. There are some people who are traveling pretty far to make it for this game, which will be interesting as well. If you want to know more about this, Greg, we'll have even more to dive into in the recruiting notebook this evening, 6 p.m. Central at HailVarsity.com. You can just bookmark the recruiting notebook every night. It runs Sunday through Thursday, 6 p.m. Central. It's presented by Pinnacle Bank, so we really appreciate them. Just go ahead and bookmark that. Check it out every evening at 6 p.m. Central. But for more on this particular topic, there will be more tonight in the recruiting notebook. So, Greg, any final thoughts as we head into spring game week? It is a big week, and I feel like it's going to be a big recruiting week for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah, I'm excited to get a big recruiting weekend again. It's going to be a little bit different, but still fun all the same. Keep it locked on Hail Varsity because I'll continue to update that list as I confirm more people coming out for the spring game.
We really appreciate you, as always, tuning in. As we say every week, you can leave a question either in the comments below of this video, whether that's on YouTube, Facebook, wherever. On Twitter, you can tweet at Greg Smith HV, at Hail Varsity. We've really appreciated the conversation and just the back and forth on a number of these topics. So thank you for joining us. Sorry we couldn't have a beautiful backdrop of Memorial Stadium this week. We'll be back soon enough, but make sure you also subscribe to Hail Varsity's YouTube channel if you haven't already, because there's even more potentially coming from Greg himself later this week. So, Greg, thank you as always for your expertise and for joining us. We'll be back next week.
Thanks, guys.